Bun găsit la emisiunea Știință și Cunoaștere. Continuăm astăzi cu partea a doua a interviului înregistrat în luna mai 2017 cu profesorul american de biologie Bruce Lipton. În vara anului 2015 primesc pe e-mail un extras din cartea sa numită Biologia credinței, în versiune reeditată și adăugită, și anume povestea detaliată a mitului care s-a creat în jurul colesterolului. Și deoarece la Știință și Cunoaștere obișnuim să demolăm mituri, subiectul mi s-a părut tocmai potrivit pentru acest nou interviu. Am întârziat 2 ani în reactualizarea acestui subiect, deoarece eu știam că printre cele 300 de episoade existente deja pe internet, am avut cel puțin 3 emisiuni în care am discutat anumite laturi ale problemei și nu doream să repetăm același lucru. M-am pregătit intens pentru a alege un astfel de set de întrebări, încât să-l pot îndrepta pe Bruce Lipton în direcția potrivită pentru a înțelege de ce a apărut acest mit. Cu toate acestea mi-a scăpat un element esențial care se regăsește doar în cartea sa și pe care îl voi expune în minutele următoare sub forma unui citat, și anume paragraful numit Studiul Jupiter. Studiul Jupiter a fost deseori utilizat în favoarea îndopării majorității oamenilor cu statine, indiferent de predispozițiile lor pentru boli cardiovasculare. În timpul perioadei de studiu, ei au observat că din grupul placebo, 68 de pacienți au făcut atac de cord și doar 31 din grupul care au luat statine au făcut atac de cord. Deci, în conformitate cu aceste numere, statinele ar fi produs o reducere uimitoare de 58% a riscului relativ la boli cardiovasculare. De aici ei au tras concluzia că statinele sunt eficiente în prevenirea bolilor cardiovasculare, dar nu au oferit publicului datele complete, ci doar pe cele parțiale scoase din context, deoarece era vorba de 8901 pacienți în grupul de control, placebo, și cel experimental, statine. Aceasta înseamnă că 68 de pacienți din 8901 din grupul de control, placebo, au făcut atac de cord, adică 0,76%, iar în grupul de control doar 31 din 8901, adică 0,35% din pacienți au făcut atac de cord, ceea ce a însemnat de fapt o reducere a riscului real cu mai puțin de 0,1%. Datele indică faptul că la fiecare 300 de persoane care iau statine, doar una singură ar avea șanse reale de a nu face atac de cord. Efectele statinelor în scăderea colesterolului au fost mult exagerate. Ca o notă separată, AstraZeneca, producătorii de statine, au fost principalii finanțatori ai discreditatului, în prezent, studiu Jupiter, conform unui articol semnat de Lorgeril et al. 2010. Utilizarea de statine în prevenția primară a bolilor de inimă a alimentat vânzările, dar nu a rezolvat cauzele în lupta cu bolile cardiovasculare. De fapt, ca și în cazul multor războaie purtate în ultima vreme, costul este ridicat, iar rezultatele neglijabile. Deși statinele au adus profituri de 29 de miliarde de dolari în vânzări doar în Statele Unite în anul 2013, războiul împotriva colesterolului a avut un impact nesemnificativ asupra bolilor cardiovasculare. În cel mai bun caz, statinele reduc riscul real de atac de cord cu aproximativ 0,3%, dar produc simultan efecte secundare în cazul a 15 până la 40% dintre persoanele care consumă medicamentul. Studii recente independente au arătat că utilizarea statinelor pentru prevenirea primară are o valoare minimă sau nulă în reducerea atacurilor de cord și a mortalității, conform Statin și Hayes din anul 2013. Folosirea statinelor pentru a trata boli cardiace este așadar un alt război costisitor, al cărui prognostic nu se poate estima. Încă nu am găsit armele de distrugere cardiacă în masă. 90% dintre bolile cardiovasculare nu se datorează unei disfuncții organice la nivelul mecanismelor celulare, ci reprezintă un răspuns comportamental determinat de semnalele din sânge. O înțelegere mai bună a rolului colesterolului în procesarea informațiilor de la nivelul membranei celulare evidențiază faptul că dereglarea cu statine a metabolismului colesterolului coincide cu blocarea funcționării întregului sistem. Surse de informare: Bruce Lipton, Biologia credinței, ediția aniversară, 10th Anniversary Edition of the Biology of Belief, care s-a lansat în luna februarie 2016 în Statele Unite. În continuare, voi relua rezumatul unui anumit detaliu pe care profesorul Lipton l-a explicat în prima parte a interviului. Imaginați-vă că acest tub este o porțiune din arterele noastre. Tubul nu este elastic și nu se poate contracta sau expanda în funcție de modul în care variază presiunea sanguină. Variațiile mici sunt tolerate ușor, dar variațiile mari necesită adaptări. Prima și cea mai importantă lege a biologiei este că corpul biologic se adaptează condițiilor de mediu. Dacă modific un parametru, precum tensiunea arterială, atunci corpul compensează și se adaptează. Pentru exemplul ales, acest tub își va mări diametrul prin accelerarea înmulțirii celulelor care formează pereții arteriali. Celulele conțin colesterol. Prin urmare, ficatul trebuie să sintetizeze, pentru că e o necesitate urgentă. Dar odată ce tubul și-a mărit diametrul, tensiunea arterială scade, deși volumul de sânge pompat este la fel de mare. Să presupunem acum că factorul generator care a determinat creșterea tensiunii sanguine a dispărut. Drept consecință, inima va pompa mai puțin sânge, deoarece un anume pericol, fals sau real, din mediul ambient a fost identificat și s-au anulat. Vasul de sânge tinde să se subțieze, deoarece curgerea sângelui nu seamănă celei de la robinetul de apă, așa că atunci când scade debitul prea mult, conductele de apă primesc aer în interior. Concluzia logică este aceea că, în cazul arterelor, scăderea tensiunii sanguine reprezintă din nou o modificare a condițiilor de mediu și corpul biologic trebuie să se adapteze noilor parametri. Aceasta înseamnă că, în loc de a da comandă de dilatare a vaselor sanguine sau de proliferare a celulelor, va da comandă de intrare în vasoconstricție, până când diametrul vasului este reglat la nivelul optim de presiune sanguină. Și, ca să ilustrez ce se întâmplă, iată acum strâng tubul ca să-i micșorez diametrul, dar în interior apare o cută care se desprinde ulterior de pe perete și care este imediat înconjurată de molecule de LDL, numit colesterol rău. Din acest moment al explicației mele apar mai multe posibilități. Profesorul Fossel mi-a relatat faptul că celulele degenerează în loc să intre în apoptoză, fapt care le face imposibil de eliminat și atunci se atașează de ele alte molecule, precum LDL, colesterol rău, care se va depune pe arteră pentru a preveni ruptura. Acest mecanism nu are nimic îngrijorător prin el însuși, cu o singură excepție, și anume trecerea foarte rapidă și foarte des de la o stare la alta, cu o viteză mai mare decât cea cu care corpul biologic poate să compenseze. Bruce Lipton ne spune că factorul esențial al acestor modificări fiziologice este stresul, dar mai sunt și alții cel puțin la fel de importanți. Vă invit acum să vizionați partea a doua a interviului cu biologul american Bruce Lipton. What is PCR protein C reactive, and could this be considered as a marker for heart failure and blood vessels inflammation?
Right. When a biological reaction occurs, it's sort of like, let's say I put gasoline in a car to drive my car. I go, fine. I say, and I get the power, I burn the gas, but I say, after the gasoline is burned, there's a waste product. The waste product, let's say carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide, poisonous. I say, oh, that's just a waste product, okay? So when biological reactions occur inside the cell, sometimes there are waste products that come out. And if you measure the amount of waste products that are in the system, you're actually measuring the amount of the problem. So as the problem gets worse, let's say the C-reactive protein will start to get higher. And it's a gauge. The level of histamine, the level of C-reactive protein, the level of different chemicals are adjusting based on the problem. No problem, you're not going to see a lot of waste product. But if the waste product is building up, it could become toxic, and the waste product could create the problems at that point. So you can read the chemistry as a gauge of what's going on. How much C-reactive protein is going to tell you how much damage is going on. But adjusting the C-reactive protein is not the problem. The problem was the damage that caused the C-reactive protein. So you say, I'm going to fix the C-reactive protein. I go, no. The damage was above that. It was up there. And if you fix a C-reactive protein, you're not fixing the damage. You put Prozac in the system, and you say, I'm adjusting the chemistry. I say, no, you're adjusting below the problem. The problem's still up here. You put statins into the system. I say, oh, you're adjusting the chemistry below the problem. The problem is up here. Here's a fact, and this is so important. Genetics, which control the mechanism, genetics are responsible for less than 1% of disease. Stop for a second and listen. Genetics, or programming of the machine, is responsible for less than 1% of disease. I go, what does that mean? I go, well, then what's the cause of disease if it's not the mechanism going wrong? I go, it's the control that's going wrong, not the mechanism. And every time the mechanism breaks down, you blame the mechanism. It's sort of like if you learn how to drive a car, okay? And whoever taught you how to drive a car told you to put 1 foot on the gas and 1 foot on the brake, drive with 1 foot on the gas and 1 foot on the brake. Well, this is going to destroy the brakes. So I say, the driver brings the car into the repair station, and the brakes are bad. And the repairman says, oh, we're going to replace the brakes. And they put the new brakes in. The guy drives the car and it comes back too soon, saying, oh, the brakes are gone again. And the repairman says, oh, okay, I'll put some more brakes back in there for you. And then he comes back after a while and said, the brakes are bad again. The doctor says, I better give you a prescription to get brakes every month. There's something wrong here. We blame the problem. We say, oh, we need new brakes. We need new brakes. I go, no. You need to teach the driver not to keep the foot on the brake when they're driving. See, so you can blame the vehicle. The brakes are bad. Or you can see where the cause of the problem is. It's the driver. Basically, what I was saying was this. If the car keeps coming in to get new brakes, you can blame the car and say the brakes are the problem. But if you see how the driver is using it, you see the brake is not the problem. It's the driver who doesn't know how to use the vehicle. So I'm telling you this. When you buy a new car from the factory, they're almost all in good shape. So I give one car to a mature person, and I give an identical car to a teenager. And I say, okay, go out and drive. Guess what? The mature person's car is going to last a long time. The teenager's car will probably break down faster. I say, why? Because they're driving like teenagers. They're rough on the car. They step on the gas and they step on the brakes. And I say, oh, so the two cars left the factory, they were both in good condition, but the one driven by the teenager shows up at the repair shop. And I go, was it the car's problem? Is there something wrong with the car? I go, no. It's the problem of the driver. And so the information I just said now becomes important. Only 1%, or actually less than 1% of disease is due to the mechanism of the body being wrong. Only 1%. 90 to 99% of disease is not the problem with the vehicle, the body. The problem is with the driver, the mind. The mind is not driving in a way to maintain health. And therefore, you can keep fixing the body. I can keep replacing the brakes in that person's car forever. Or at one point, I can stop and say, let me teach you how to drive. Because if I teach you how to drive, we won't have to replace the brakes all the time. And I'm going to tell you about the chemistry. They say, oh, your body is broken down. We say, like the doctors, like the repair person says, I can keep giving you new drugs. I'll give you a prescription. You can keep the drugs. And I go, what if we taught them how to drive the car, the body, in a better way? They wouldn't break down. And this is the important work that you and I are involved with, is teaching people the driving skills to drive your body so that you keep it healthy and not destroy it. And stop blaming the problems in the body because of the body and start recognizing, no, your spirit, your identity, you're the driver. If you're not driving in a very good way. If you're not using your vehicle in the right way, your vehicle will break down. And then, as I said, but we blame it on the vehicle. And I go, because we leave the driver out of the equation. But the driver is the main cause or problem in human health. The driver, the mind.
Coming back again to cholesterol, is there good and bad cholesterol, or it is just another myth within the myth?
Well, basically, there's a toxic form of cholesterol, but it's associated with the system not working properly. It's like it's a byproduct of the bad function. It's like, as I said, you burn the gas in the system, you get a byproduct that's toxic called carbon monoxide. If you drive the vehicle inappropriately, you get a byproduct like a waste product. And some of that waste product is the form of the low density cholesterol versus the high density cholesterol. It's a different version, but it can be measured to tell you, are you in a good place or a bad place? Because it's a byproduct of the reaction. So it's like a gauge. The more you have of one form, the HDL, the high or low form of cholesterol, is a gauge. It's just telling. It's like you could put a needle on it. It will say, are you running in good condition or are you running in bad condition? And so it's a reflection of biology that's not working properly when you get the bad cholesterol.
I have some bad news and good news on how cholesterol is now viewed on the internet pages. For example, in 2004, the US National Cholesterol Education Program arbitrarily created the upper limits of the cholesterol, saying that this is the cause for leveling up the risk of heart failure. But 2 years later, in 2006, a review of Annals of Internal Medicine published the conclusions that there is insufficient data to suggest a targeted lowered level of cholesterol. Why they perpetuated the myth?
Let me just add a comment to what you just said. That when reviewing the finances that supported the research, they found that the research that said we have to control the cholesterol level was research funded by the pharmaceutical company. They were promoting their own research to sell their own drugs. That's why much of the research has been discounted, because they started to go back and say, wait, you were working for the drug companies and doing this research. So the results you got really reflect what the interest of the drug company is. Not, they selected the data to make it sound like the cholesterol is a problem because they wanted to sell the statins. And so the research in cholesterol is based on who funded the research. When you find that when the drug companies fund the research, it changes the results. Matter of fact, there's an article in the British Journal of Medicine, or BMJ, British Medical Journal, and they studied. This is really important, so you got to understand this is very important. They looked at the results of studies on the same research, but separated the studies based on, was the research funded by government money or was the research funded by pharmaceutical money? To see, did the results change based on who funded the research? And the answer was this. When the research was funded by the pharmaceutical companies, the research was 4 times more in the favor of the pharmaceutical company than the research that was published using money from the government. In other words, there's a bias. When the money comes from the pharmaceutical company, the research is biased to support the intention of that pharmaceutical company. So that's when all of a sudden people started to look at the research and say, who's funding the research? It changes the results based on who's funding it. And when the government is funding it independent, you get whole different answers than when the research is funded by pharmaceutical money.
In a 2015 CNN article, there are more debates pros and cons statins. Let me quote the skeptic opinion. Critics of the cholesterol guidelines say that grossly overestimate the risk of people recommended to take statins. In terms of numbers, the new guidelines increase the number of Americans eligible for statins from 40 million to 60 million people according to a 2014 study. Not everyone is convinced these new studies are the final word on statin guidelines. I don't find these studies very compelling, said Dr. Stephen Neeson, Department Chair of Cardiovascular Medicine at Cleveland Clinic. In fact, many physicians consider the guidelines from 2013 to be irrational.
As I said, they went, as you just said, they went from 40 million prescriptions to 60 million prescriptions. And turn that into money and tell me what that means. I say, if you were making $1 billion with the lower number, you raise the number and you get how much more? From 60 from 40 is almost half again as much. Then you made that much more money. Every time you change the number, the pharmaceutical company makes more money. And that's when you have to say what this doctor said you just quoted. Is that research correct? Is that research right? And then I bring up this topic that I said, well, the research is dependent on who gave the money. And that's when you start to realize all of the research that says you need to lower cholesterol is basically research from pharmaceutical companies and not the same as the research when paid for by the government money that has no interest in the result. But pharmaceutical companies have very special interest in the result because the results determine how much more money they can make.
We are approaching the final part of our meeting on Skype, and please explain more about cell membrane.
Yes.
There is a video that you produced and uploaded on your YouTube account.
Okay. Well, the story in conventional books, and the science that everybody in your country and in my country are reading everywhere, is a story that genes control biology. That genes can turn on and genes can turn off. And so you give power to the gene to make a decision. Should the gene for cancer turn on, or should the cancer, the gene for this disease turn on or off? And we say, that's not up to you. That's up to the genes. And they control themselves. That was the belief. And so that's where the belief that genes can regulate life because they're the ones that turn on and off and control the fate. And the issue about that is in the understanding that came from Watson and Crick, actually Francis Crick, was that information starts with the genes turning on and off and then expresses itself in the body. And I say, yeah. Well, I say, who controls the genes? And they say, no, the genes control themselves. I go, oh, no, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. Because genes are blueprints. They're just the same as you go to the architect office. They got a blueprint sitting on the table. I say, is a blueprint on or off? And the architect looks at you and goes like, on or off? A blueprint doesn't got on or off. There's no on and off in a blueprint. I go, there's no on and off in a gene. It's a blueprint, just like our architect blueprint. But I say, somebody has to read the blueprint. That's when biology changed. They find out who's the one that selects the genes. And it turns out the brain sends signals to the cell that turn the genes on and off and regulate the genes. This means the control of information is not in the genes. The control of information is above the genes. It's in the brain. And that's why the new science is not genetic control is the old science. Genetic control means control by genes. That's old belief. The new science is called epigenetic control. But epi means above. So when I say epigenetic control, I am saying control above the genes. I say, oh, what's controlling above the genes? I say the mind, the brain. I say, well, that's in the human. I say, what about in the cell? I say, the brain of the cell is not the nucleus. The brain of the cell is the membrane, the skin. It's the same as the human. Where did the human brain come from in the embryo? The human brain came from the skin, So the cell and the human are the same. The brain is not the genes. That's reproduction. Genes are reproduction. They're not thinking. They're not creating, just reproduction. So we said the nucleus, and even in a book, you could go find a book anywhere now, a science book, and it'll say the brain of the cell is the nucleus because the genes turn on and off and control the cell. We changed that. Now the brain of the cell is not the nucleus. The brain of the cell is the membrane. It's the one that reads the environment and then translates the information and controls the biology with that information. So this is very different, and here's why it's so important for the audience to know the difference between genetics and epigenetics. This is profound, and here's what it is. In genetics, the fate of your body and your life is not controlled by you. In genetics, the fate of your life is controlled by the genes that activate independently of you. So you are a victim. If the genes cause cancer, you say, I didn't cause the cancer, the genes caused the cancer. Okay? So we're victims in genetic control. We didn't pick the genes. If we don't like the traits, we can't change the genes. And the genes turn on and off and regulate us. We just respond to the genes. That's old science. The new science, epigenetics, says no. It's signals from the environment that control the genes. It's signals from our belief about the environment that controls the genes. And I go, what do you mean? I say, look, a cell has to adjust its biology to meet what the environment demands are. If a cell can't adjust its biology, it's going to die. So the cell has to read the environment and then adjust the biology. Okay? So the relevance about that is, well, my cells, let's say my liver cell in my body right now, it can't see you. It can't see what's going on in the world. It got no eyes. It doesn't know. How does my liver cell know, should I be in growth or should I be in protection? How does the liver cell know that? I say, only way it knows is if the brain sends a signal that's saying, oh, we have the outside is not supporting us. Now we have to adjust and change the biology. So the brain is sending the signal that controls the cell. The brain is reading the environment. And here it is. You ready? The brain reads the environment. That's got all the receptors, eyes, ears, nose, everything. I read the environment. But when the signals come in, the mind interprets the environment. And what it does is it sends a signal to the cells so that my liver cell doesn't see the real environment. My liver cell can't see the real environment. It only sees what my mind told it. Okay? And I say, well, what's the relevance? I say, then genes are controlled, and this is a fact, the genes are controlled by the environment. I'll give you an example. You walk outside and it's cold out. The environment, cold, is picked up by the nervous system. The nervous system reads the environment. It adjusts the genetics and behavior of the cell to make you warm up and keep your body warm. But if you walk outside and it's warm out, the signal from warm has a whole different response. Now it causes me to perspire and cool off. So I say, well, the warming or the cooling of the body isn't under the control of genes. I say, no, it's under the control of the environment. You know, so all of a sudden I say, oh, then behavior is not controlled from the inside, it's controlled by what's going on outside. And then the second part is this, whatever's going on outside is interpreted by the mind. So it may not be true. You may have a misbelief, a misperception. You think this is something good for you, and then you find out later it's bad for you. I say misperception, okay? So what's the point? There's the real environment that controls the cells, and then there's the interpretation of the environment that comes from the mind. And the bottom line is this. Biology is not controlled by genes. It's controlled by the environment and the perceptions of the mind. And I go, well, why is that important? And then go back, and here it is, the big conclusion on this. If genetic control was real, then whatever we do in our life is not going to be relevant, or it's not going to control my genes because they control themselves. So I'm a victim. And the genes can turn on and off. I'm a victim from the genes. But I say, no, the new science, epigenetics, says the environment and the perception control the genes. I go, I'm the one that can change the environment. I'm the one that can change my belief about the environment. Therefore, I'm the one that has power over the genes. I am not a victim of the genes because my nervous system, which I regulate, is what controls the genes. So I can change my biology with my thoughts, and that's placebo or nocebo, which is the opposite of placebo, but it's my thought that is controlling my biology. And only 1% of disease is due to a problem of control because of genes. The final conclusion is we have been programmed to believe that genes control our biology and that we do not control the genes. And therefore, we become a victim, meaning if there's cancer running in your family or Alzheimer's running in your family, and you say these are genetic diseases and I'm going to get them, then you're a victim. You can't control that, okay? But that belief is incorrect because we found out genes don't turn on and off by themselves. Genes turn on and off in response to the environment and our perception of the environment. And then all of a sudden I say, well, wait. If that's what controls genes, then I am the master of my biology. I'm not a victim. I'm a master because I control the environment and I can control my perception. And therefore, I'm in control of the genes, not the genes in control of me. And I say, oh, old belief, I'm a victim. New belief, I am the master of my life. But I have to let go of the beliefs, the interpretations that I said control my cells. If I believe I'm a victim, I become a victim. If, I create my life based on my belief. If I get hypnotized, and someone says, I'm going to touch you with a burning cigarette, and they take their finger and they touch me, and they say, here's a burning cigarette, I'm going to touch you with it. It's just a finger, but in my hypnosis, I see, oh, it's a cigarette, and that touches my hand right here. In a minute, I could end up with a blister, like a real burn. But I touch it only with my finger. I go, this happens in hypnosis. I go, what does it mean? This is why it's so important. The belief that I got burned created the response, not the finger. And all of a sudden you realize, my God, my belief can generate a blister. And I go, your belief can generate a cancer. Your belief can generate Alzheimer's. Your belief can generate diabetes. Your belief can generate cardiovascular disease. Your belief can cause you to die if you believe you're going to die at a certain time, meaning a doctor gives you a diagnosis and says you have a terminal illness and you have 3 months left to live. What is the mind telling the cells? Mind saying, 3 months? What time is it? Because in 3 months we're going to die. That's what the mind is saying. And guess what? If the person doesn't do anything different in 3 months, that's when they die.
There is one more issue about personal development, healing, therapies, and the issue is the practice, real practice. There is no miracle therapy, and many people do not understand why we need practice if we wish a better health and life. Because if we don't do anything, then nothing can be expected.
Yeah, well, that's where we started with in the very conversation in the beginning, Christian, because you said you can teach people the whole new idea, but they don't do it. And I go, because people don't understand. Just because you educated my conscious mind, genes don't control my life. Oh, that's new information. When they walk away, it doesn't mean that they're going to use that information because their life isn't coming from the conscious mind. The life is 95% coming from subconscious mind. That's a program. If I educate the conscious with the new program, that doesn't mean the new program went to the subconscious. Matter of fact, it doesn't do that. So I can educate like you are an educator. You are giving people new information and their conscious mind's going, yes, I understand. And then they walk out of your classroom and they still have the same life. And I go, because you educated the conscious mind, but that's not the one that's controlling biology. The one that controls biology is subconscious mind. And I say, yeah, but just because I educated the conscious mind doesn't mean the subconscious mind learned. In fact, the two minds don't learn in the same way. So it's easy for us to educate the conscious mind. The stuff that you help people with, Christian, you're teaching, you're educating conscious mind. I go, because that's how the conscious mind can learn. It's creative. You just have to hear it, and the conscious mind goes, oh, okay, I got it. But I say the subconscious mind doesn't learn that way. The subconscious mind is the habit mind. If you want to learn something new in the subconscious, you have to repeat it every day, repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and make a habit. So coming into your classroom for one day and listening to the information will educate their conscious mind, but because it's only one time, that information did not change the subconscious mind. To change the subconscious mind, they have to read it over and over and practice and make a habit. So your issue when we first started talking was, how come I can provide all this information to these people and yet they walk away and they still don't use it? And I say, because the information you provided made more awareness in the conscious mind. But unfortunately, that's not the mind that controls the biology. So you gave them education, but you didn't change the program, which is running 95% in the biology. So you have to put the information in a different way for the subconscious to learn, because a videotape, a live lecture, a self-help book, whatever, does not create the habits that control us. They only educate the conscious mind. It's the habits that control us, but that's subconscious mind. And if you don't make a new program in the subconscious mind, you'll continue to play the old program no matter what. So they come into your classroom, Christian, you give them brilliant information, make the conscious mind very smart. But when they walk out of the classroom, they're not using the conscious mind to control their life. They're using subconscious. So whatever you just said in the classroom didn't have to work for them, because only if they think about doing it, oh yeah, Christian said I should do this, oh, then they have control. But if they just are going down the street and doing their regular life, it's not from thinking now, it's just the program is running.
But I got the results. And these are just disregarded, and I don't know why.
Because, number one, their original program that they got when they were young will doubt everything you try to say, because the original program says you cannot control your life. That's what the original program says. I say, why is that important? Because I said, if you believe you can't control your life, that's the belief. Then if you try to control your life, the belief will say, no, we can't do that. The subconscious has got the belief. The conscious mind says, I want to control my life, and sends a signal to go into the body. I want to control my life. And as the signal goes down in the brain, the subconscious says, you can't do that. And so the signal never got lower than the head. It stayed in the brain, never got in the head. So whatever you just said to them didn't become part of their life, because the subconscious blocked the message, because it didn't conform to the belief that they're victims. That's the belief they learned when they were infants. That's been there all the time. And you and I, we have jobs. Our jobs is to awaken people, give them the power back. But we have to recognize it's very difficult for the average person to take that knowledge that we are talking about right now and instantly make it part of the brain. Because you want this knowledge, you have to practice. You didn't learn how to drive a car by just getting in the car the first time, put the key in and drive the car. You had to get in the car and you had to practice. You had to practice. You want to change the program? You can't just say, I can show you how to change the program, do this. It doesn't mean the program changed. I want to change the program, I got to do a habit. I have to do an exercise. I have to repeat something every day. Every day I have to take the message that you said and put it back into my head every day. If I repeat this every day, then it can become a habit. Then it will change a person's life. But if it's not a habit, it's not going to be played in the system. The person can take a test and get 100 when they're thinking, oh yeah, this is what Christian said. I remember exactly, and I write it down. Here's what Christian said. Here's the answer to the question. I go, yeah, but that's from thinking. That's not from behaving. The behaving is from the subconscious. So if you didn't change the subconscious, there will be no new behavior put into the system.
I spoke in some occasions. People are just not paying any real attention or considerations, so it is worthless to continue.
We could go over the history of biology and medicine, Christian. You'll find all the people who made great advances. When they made those advances, the first time they brought it to the public, they were all rejected. All the people who were smart, who understood, the guy who, the one who developed sterilization for surgery, Lister, okay? He told everybody, if you don't wash your hands and keep this area clean, it's going to cause a problem. He told them that. He learned that. And the medical doctors looked at him and just ignored him. They would use the same hospital gown and wipe their hands on it and work on this patient and wipe their hands and work on this patient. And Lister said, the disease is being spread by you. They laughed at him. They laughed at him. And the idea was what? It was the right idea, but the people weren't ready for it, okay? A man I knew at University of Wisconsin by the name of Harold Temin, he discovered something called reverse transcriptase, an enzyme that will take RNA and put it into DNA. And I said, well, what happened when he told everybody about this in 1960? And I said, they rejected him. They laughed at him and said, that's silly. That research is silly. Why? Because we know information doesn't go backwards. It only goes DNA to RNA to protein. So the idea that RNA goes back into DNA, that doesn't fit our belief system. They laughed at him. This was the enzyme that ultimately causes the AIDS virus to be infective. All of a sudden now people look and go, ooh, that enzyme is important. And then it became recognized how important reverse transcriptase is. He got a Nobel Prize. But he didn't get a Nobel Prize on day one when he told people. What he got was laughed at. Lister got laughed at when he told people his findings. Okay? All of these major changes, when they're first introduced, they're coming in to a world where nobody believes it. And only over time, as the new idea becomes involved and built in, there's a period of time, and then you look back and go, yeah, that person was right. And the idea is, okay, so you are what? Ahead of the game. You're ahead of the crowd. Your research offers information that the conventional people just look at and go, that's fake, you know? And it's like, that's the way humans are. And that's why, look, I've been talking about this new biology since 1985. And the first time I gave a lecture, this is really important, of the whole new biology, which today is the foundation called epigenetics. I gave this talk in 1985 before epigenetics was a science. And you know what happened? I went back to the university I used to be a professor at, University of Wisconsin. And these were my old colleagues. And I got up in front of that room and I gave a lecture about the new biology, the membrane and the environment and epigenetics and all that. And they sat there and looked at me like I came from outer space. When I finished my talk, an hour, and I said, thank you, like, thank you, they just sat there and nobody moved. Nobody said a word. They looked at me like I was crazy. And then all of a sudden, they all got up and walked out of the room. Not one person stayed to ask me a question. They thought I was so crazy with this idea that they wouldn't even stay in the room with me. They left. And I stood in the room alone. What? Am I crazy? I actually started to get nervous. I thought maybe I'm crazy because everybody left. But it just was what? They weren't ready for it. It was too early in their world. They already had a belief that they were living on. And I come in and say, that belief doesn't work. And they look at me, no, we've been using this belief all the time. And it's like, I say, no, that belief doesn't work. For them, it was like, I'm the crazy one because everyone else is using this belief. I'm the only one saying, no, it's wrong. So everybody must be right and I must be wrong. And that's why they walked out. Only, 10 years later, it became official science. Okay? Now I say it and everybody goes, oh, yeah, epigenetics, yeah. And I go, when I first said epigenetics, they looked at me like, you're a crazy man. And just like you, when you see the response, you bring all this beautiful information in, and then you see the people respond going, that's crazy. And they walk away, then you think, what's wrong? I go, you're ahead of the game. People aren't ready in the general world to hear what you and I are saying. That's why it's taken me, I've been lecturing since 1985. In the beginning, I could hardly get anybody to come into the lecture because they looked at me as, he's a crazy man. Now I could get 1,000, 2,000 people come to a lecture. What's happened? The belief changed. And even though I started before the belief change, I was there when the belief change occurred. So all of a sudden, here I am. I got a different position. I could give the same talk today that I gave back in 1980. The one in 1980 caused my colleagues to leave the room. I give the same talk today. You know what people say? Yeah, all right. So what's new with that? We already know that. I go, geez, 20 years ago, nobody believed that. 30 years ago, nobody believed that. But now everybody go, oh yeah, that's the way it is. So I want you to understand, Christian, keep your lectures and then wait and look back. Because as the people change, the words that you are saying, the information you are providing will make more sense. But if they're still using old thinking like genes control life, then your words don't make sense in their world. So the question is, does that mean don't say anything? I go, no, Christian, you keep it up. Why? Because if I would have stopped talking about it, I wouldn't be here today with this job. Okay? You're ahead of the game. Keep your strength. The people will catch up. You just keep the message going.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is always a pleasure to speak with you, and these are very special moments for me.
Well, that's because I know exactly what you're talking about. Even if your audience doesn't know, I know. Because I was there, I saw it, and I see what you're doing. That's why years ago, when we first met and you told me about the research, I said, oh, people will find out you are right, but it'll take them some time.
Few seconds remained. Please let me thank you so deeply for having you again in our TV program, and for any managers watching this program, if they are interested in inviting you for a lecture in Cluj and Bucharest, what should they do?
Well, it's just simple. They can write to me on my website, which is bruce@brucelipton.com. And as I say, contact, and you can then send contact information to the office, and then that's when we try to figure out the schedule. So I would look forward to that, because, as I said, I would be honored to return to Romania, and especially if I get a chance to visit where you are based, this will be so exciting for me. I'm excited already just thinking about it.
I thank you a lot for granting me this new interview, and please upload more videos on your YouTube account. I already broadcasted the one called The Honeymoon Effect of 35 minutes length, and it's amazing. I thank you very much.
I am very honored to be a colleague of yours, Christian, because the few of us that take the guts to stand up and tell the truth, even though the people aren't listening, that's very important. Because if we give up, then the truth won't come out. So I encourage you to continue doing the fine work that you are doing, because the world needs what you are doing.
I thank you very much, and because I saw your amazing studio where you are filming, I am thinking that maybe for the future, when we are planning a new TV program, if you can edit your answers directly on video, I can send the questions in advance.
Every couple of months, my nephew, who is a videographer, the man who does the video making professionally, we get together and make some videos. I would like to make maybe just a special high quality video to send to you. So the next time my nephew Alex comes here, we're going to dedicate a video to send to you. All right. And it will be high quality.
And shall I send the questions in advance?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, this is really great. Very great. I appreciate a lot.
You betcha.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
This way we may have a great top quality produced interview, and I thank you so much for helping me.
Christian, thank you. Thank you for your faith in yourself that you are still here doing this. That's important. If you don't have faith in yourself, you can't do the work that you're doing. So I honor that. I honor that. So you have a wonderful day and a wonderful future in helping people have a better life and more control over their lives with the information you can offer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Me too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Emisiunea Știință și Cunoaștere se difuzează în fiecare sâmbătă în premieră, cu reluare duminică, la orele 18:30, plus transmisie online pe internet. Fiți alături de noi data viitoare la o nouă întâlnire cu Știință și Cunoaștere.